Good evening and welcome to episode 9. We are old people now on the internet. Episode 9. It's called what, Corey? Sorry? What do we have episode 9? What are we called? Death from Above? Death from Above. Continuing on the Star Wars theme, of course. Episode 9, Death from Above. Starship Troopers? I said ship. I didn't put a T on the end. Don't worry. It was ship. Trust me. Tonight on the show we have Matthew Sweet. And, of course, as this show is, stripped down to the very basics tonight, you know. We have one acoustic, although he did bring 12 strings. 12 strings. So we got extra. That's like having 2 guitar players in one. You, of course, can follow us on stripdownlive.com if you, well, I'm presuming you probably are already. Afterwards, we go to iTunes, Blip TV, Ustream, and many, many places. You'll find us. Just go to stripdownlive.com and it will link you to wherever you want to be. Also, the network actually now has when I say the network, this particular small garage here in the wonderful San Fernando Valley, which we call a network because this is the modern age, now has its own website called and yes, Mike still can't spell, StreaminGarage.com, which is without the G, so StreaminGarage. That was good, right? Yeah. .com, but apparently if you actually spell it correctly and put in streaminggarage.com or garage, it will actually go to the same website. So anyway, tonight, as I said, we have Matthew Sweet, so let's start with some music. Please welcome Matthew Sweet to the show.
Thank you, guys. Now you're just like a bird, girl. Fly away from your pain. Don't let anyone hold you, 'cause it won't be the same. Walk on into a wildfire and run on into the rain. You know you're the one, the one. You've been breaking the laws, girl, that your own nature made. But if nobody cares, then how could you be to blame? Walking into a wildfire, running into the rain. You know you're the one, driving like hell off the railing, soaring the sky. Say goodbye to the world. You've been breaking the laws, girl, that your own nature made. But if nobody cares, then how could you be to blame? Walking into a wildfire and running into the rain. Baby, how could I ask you to come down again? Baby, how could I ask you to come down? Walking into a wildfire and running into the rain. Baby, how could I ask you to come down again? Baby, how could I ask you to come down again? Baby, how could I ask you to come down again? All right, I got through a song. Thank you, internet and audience. Thanks. That's a song called Bird Girl. It's on an album I made called Sunshine Lies. I'm so nervous because there's millions watching right now. They might show you guys. Watch it. What am I supposed to do next? Let's see. I think Divine, is that right? And so this song comes from my album Girlfriend. I think it might be the only one I'm playing tonight from that record. It's called Divine Intervention. I'm counting on his divine intervention. Well, I cannot understand my God. I don't know why it gets to me. But one day my life is filled with joy. Then we'll finally disagree, and all depending on his divine intervention, yeah. But does he love us? Does he love us? Does he love us? Does he love us? Now does he love us? I look around, all I see is destruction, yeah. And we're all counting on his divine intervention. Here comes the sunshine. Here comes the sunshine. Sunshine, the sunshine. Thank you very much. You're such a kind audience. Thanks for all the internet wishes. They're pouring in over there in the station, right? Okay. All right. Oh, gosh, I'm going to do one more song. Right? Before we talk, I'm learning from my host. And I ask.
Apparently we're the same.
We're the same. That's right. That's okay. All right. This song comes from a record called 100% Fun. It was really kind of off that I named the record 100% Fun because it was right when Kurt Cobain killed himself. And I read the suicide note stuff. You know, it's like, life is no longer 100% fun in that thing. And I just thought, wow, what a crazy idea to sort of like require 100% fun. And I just kind of thought of that. But I never really talked about it because I didn't want anyone to think I was like, you know, making a joke on it, which I didn't really mean it as. But now the internet knows. Okay, back to We're the Same. I don't have to speak, and you know what I'm thinking. You don't need to hear what I say. I don't have to ask, 'cause you'll guess what I'm seeking. You don't need to hide what you know. And baby, each other's eyes, baby, we're the same. So you should not be surprised Maybe it's me. Maybe it's I don't have to act, so you'll know what I'm feeling. You don't need to see to believe. Baby, we're the same when we fail in each other's eyes. Baby, we're the same, so you should not be surprised when I swear to you I never told you what to do. Maybe it's me, maybe it's you, maybe it's you. We're the same.
Now you can relax.
Find a way for my little friend.
Do you find it weird performing at times? I mean, it's interesting because to me, because you know, before tonight we never met, and I'm looking at everything you've done, which you know, and I was briefly talking to you before the show about, because a lot of the time when you're doing this stuff, you're not aware of how much you've accomplished through the years.
Yeah.
And the amount you've done is quite ridiculous. I mean, you're a constant worker. But I mean, I want to sort of start because for me it would make some sense with the history. And I was trying to geographically follow you around.
Okay.
But in sort of, I feel there's a few missing gaps because you were born in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Right.
That much I know.
Yes.
Which I also know is the capital of Nebraska. Because,
That's right. The college is there.
Because
yes.
my kids are at school and I have to know those things.
You've done
I've
good homework.
Yeah. Then you moved to Athens, Georgia.
Yes, when I got out of high school.
And did you went to college there? And I know you kind of got in the music scene. Was your purpose to go to college, or was it to get into the music scene?
Good question, isn't it?
I mean, or was it a
Well, I guess I
coincidental?
thought of, you know, I didn't like have any money or anything when I graduated from high
Right.
school, so it was kind of like my parents expected me to go to college, and I was kind of like, okay, I think I want to go to Athens, Georgia, and they're like, what? What are you talking about? Because they didn't
That
really
was
know.
primarily for the music for you?
It was kind of for the music because I'd met some people in bands there, the guys in REM who had
Right.
toured through Lincoln when they were first had a 45 they made themselves, and I happened to have that 45 because I ordered it from New York Rocker, and so I went to see them when they first came to town at this club I played at since I was 13 in bands and stuff, and you know, there were like 100 people there or something, and I ended up talking to them, and we had dinner with their manager Jefferson and Michael Stipe and I was really interested in this guy Mitch Easter who produced the first REM stuff. So they're like, oh, you love Mitch, you know, and they were really excited. And it's hard to imagine a time when it was like this, but I got postcards from like the people, like Michael's, I really like your tape, Michael Stipe. I'm like, this is so cool. I mean, there weren't like really a lot of people who knew yet for me to go, check this out, this postcard I got. And then, like, I got postcards from other people in Athens. They're
Right.
like Michael's sister had a band called OOK, and this girl,
Right.
Linda Hopper, was kind of the main singer in it. And she wrote me postcards, like, come open for us at the 40 Watt, like the famous Athens club or whatever. More famous now. So I thought, well, it's a place where people do original music. You know, I knew
Right.
that the B-52s came from there. And so I went there, and it was really fun because it's the first time I was away from home. So I just, you know, went to lots of parties and stuff, and all the stuff like you do going to college, but without a lot of going to college.
Just a lot of music. But I mean, did you actually play in a band with Michael and his? Did you with the OOK band? Did you play with them?
I
for a
played
while?
with OOK. I played guitar, and we
Right.
made one record up at Mitch's drive-in studio. And I was just kind of the guitar player. The funny thing about it is OOK's whole thing was they had no guitar. It was just bass and drums, and it was like really cool. But then for some reason I think they were going to break up or never do a record, and I knew Linda and this guy David Pierce, who I ended up working with on stuff of mine, and don't break up. Okay, I'll play guitar and you can stay together, you know. So I was doing my little part to keep an Athens group together, I guess.
But was this in? So how old were you at this point?
Young, you know. I don't know. How old would I get out of high school?
19, 18,
18
19?
probably, in 18,
Right.
19.
And
1980.
but then that led on. So how
Summer
did that
of
lead?
83, this is.
Whoa. Okay. So if that's the summer of '83, then '85 you signed to Columbia as a
That's right.
solo artist.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was sort of, it was like a development deal, kind of.
Right.
It was like, you know, we'll give you gear to do more multi-tracks, because that's kind of how I worked on my music, was alone, hiding out, kind of
Right.
doing it. And they said, we'll give you money for that and to live, and you can move to New York, you know, and then we'll make a record, you know, after 6 months or whatever. And the
Right.
guy I was with he meant it, you know, he was a young A&R guy, but a guy named Steve Robofsky, but
He went on to bigger things as well.
he went on to do very well.
was at
And even
Arista.
at that time at Columbia, he brought in the whole Def Jam thing.
Right.
I remember like LL Cool J, like they gave me like his first 45, which was something really cool with just like a piano bass note and some sort of groove and him rapping.
That's one of those like little plastic black
A
things.
45,
that no
yeah.
one
We don't.
knows
I make
what-
the symbol. For
Yeah.
People don't know too much about, but isn't it amazing how things have changed?
But did you? So that's when you moved. See, the whole bit I was missing was the New York bit, because I got the Lincoln, Nebraska, I got the Athens, Georgia, and I presume the New York bit because
Yeah. I went to New York, yeah.
because you went on. I mean, you did the Columbia thing didn't work out. You then signed with A&M, correct?
Yeah, well, what happened is Steve, who'd signed me at Columbia, by the time my record was coming out, everyone wanted to hire him away.
Right.
And so he decided he was going to leave and go to A&M. But Columbia got really hardcore on him about his contract, so he sort of had to stay there. And it was like, you know, my record came out, I toured with the Golden Palominos, and we did some songs from my record.
And this was
and
inside the first album.
This is the first album, yeah. And so I went on this tour and kind of learned rock and roll 101 with all these incredible people, Anton Fear and
Right.
Sid Straw and Bernie Worrell, who, you know, all these amazing people. And I was like the kid, you know what I mean? So that was a big kind of learning time for me. And so Steve's like, well, we're not gonna make another record here, obviously. I'll do a record with you at A&M. But then I waited for like a couple of years, hoping he really was going to do it, you know what I mean? And then finally he got to leave and went to A&M, and he did sign me there. So I made a second record there.
And that was Earth, was the second
Yes.
record. And then from...
That's kind of when I first came out to California, because A&M, you know, was based here.
Oh, so you moved here then? Because
No,
what was interesting...
didn't move here then.
Because what was interesting is after
out
that,
here,
before
so.
you did Girlfriend, which ended up being your third record,
Right.
you were kind of involved with Lloyd Cole. It was interesting to me
Oh, yeah,
because
you know
I
Lloyd
just
probably,
moved
yeah,
to
yeah.
New York at that point in time.
And Lloyd
he
had.
was already, I think we probably moved around the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I moved to New York in, 88.
88, so you're before him. I think he comes more like 89, 90
Yeah.
maybe.
But
I
very
think.
sort of
Maybe I'm wrong.
similar, and what was interesting to me that, because you did some work with him, and...
Yeah, I played bass on a couple albums.
Yeah, I mean, I think
After the Commotions, when
yeah,
he started
exactly. It
doing
was
the
his,
solo
I think it
records,
was 3 of his solo albums, if I'm not mistaken. Was it?
yeah. You're
2 or
probably
3?
right.
I think
I
it's
know
3
it's
of them.
at least 2.
Yeah, and what was interesting, well, to me, was seeing the similarities between the two of you. But we could get into that later.
Lloyd taught me a lot. Like, Lloyd knew so much more about kind of guitar chords, and he knew a
Yeah.
lot more about classic rock history than
Yeah.
I did, kind of. So he was very helpful that way. He always kind of was coming up with cool sort of chord shapes and things.
But he was also one of those people which, I mean, it's sort of a later question because we haven't got into the Girlfriend era yet, but that was never comfortable with any success he had. He was always tormented by
A little tormented.
anything.
He had a kind of an attitude, I think, about the press and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's more of an English thing, like that the press
Well,
and the
'cause the
artists
English press are
are
worse,
so
yeah.
close to each other in this weird way. They're like in the room yelling at each other or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But, so, you know, what where
Well,
did
we're
we
getting on to
start?
Girlfriend because that was after you. I mean, I'm thinking that's after you met Lloyd, where
It is, and in fact,
Or around the same
I can
time.
I can do the time because Lloyd actually was one of the Lloyd and my friend Fred Marr heard the demo for Girlfriend,
right.
and in fact, Lloyd maybe was the first person to encourage me like about that song. He's like, "This
Right.
is cool," you know, and I kind of thought of it as this throwaway sort of thing. So it was kind of. He was really a great encouragement to me and really nice, let me stay at his apartment and stuff, you know, when I had nothing. So I only have nice things to say about Lloyd.
No, I mean, I have nothing bad either to say, 'cause I actually love him, and as an artist, I love him as well. But I'm sort of...
He had that kind of brooding persona
Yeah, he's
anyway.
very,
you know?
very
Although he has,
yeah.
you know, great sense of humor, and he's actually a happy sort of guy, really. You know?
No, he is. I mean, and what happens is, and I can see a parallel if we got into more of your music, which, you know, obviously we will, in the sense of that constant sort of, once you get somewhere and it becomes accepted, that dichotomy of the kind of, I don't know if I want this. I don't know if this is good for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is really going to work for me personally, kind of thing. And I see that in kind of a bunch of your music where you sort of question.
Yeah.
You're a lot of the time questioning things. I mean,
yeah, I never wanted really to be a solo artist like this, sitting with a guitar and I'm alone, and it's just like, to me that was the most boring thing in the world or whatever when I was a teenager, you know. And so I would have thought more along the lines of like have a name of a group, and even if it's me mainly, I'd have a name and not have to like really be the guy.
And have someone else do the guy, be the guy.
And when I got my deal with Columbia, they actually flew me up to New York from Athens, and a guy named Rick Chertoff met me with Steve, and Rick had was writing, they were probably #1 with like the Cyndi Lauper record that he produced, you know. And I thought, maybe they want a song for Cyndi Lauper. Like, that's as far as I went, like, they're having me come up here, why, you know? I knew it was this guy, Rick Chertoff. So I kind of went in the office with them, and they're, like, talking to me, like, yeah, so, you know, we think maybe, you know, you might find, like, instead of staying in school, maybe you want to do music, you know? It was, like, it was sort of evil, really, when I think back, but they were totally nice, you know? But I was like, yeah, I don't know about school or whatever, and, you know, so we could give you some money to live, and you could not have to go to school, and we think you should use your real name and be a solo artist. That was the next thing they said. And, you know, I was like, okay, you know, whatever. So then I had to kind of figure out who I was a little more than I would have. I could have just been, you know, obscure about it or whatever.
Well, it was a time when you were probably just enjoying the whole fact you're
I just
making
liked
a
to make
living.
music. I wanted to record, and really, the funny thing is I've been asked a lot of times, those first couple of records, which really sold nothing that I know of. I don't know, we probably sold little bits.
Right.
It never occurred to me, like, I have to succeed. Like, to me, succeeding was getting signed.
Yeah.
It was, like, so foreign to me thinking of having success.
And be careful what you wish for.
Yes. And so I was really super unprepared when I had success, because I hadn't really played live very much with my music, and I'd never had a lot of people like it, you know, so that was sort of a big shock. Plus, I made the record for A&M, and then Polygram bought them right when we were sort of in the last finishing it up, and Steve left because there was a power struggle there. And so I was left at this label without my A&R guy with that record. And there's a guy named David Anderle. He's actually a really cool guy from way back. He was a friend of like Brian Wilson and all these people. And he actually called me up and was like, your record is cool. I really like it. And my manager talked to him for a while about it. But in the end, they're like, why don't we sell it? We'll let you sell it. And you don't have to give us the money it cost if, you know, we'll make some sort of deal. If you sold records, you'd have to pay
give us a
know.
percentage.
Yeah. So it really, the record was, I didn't know if it would ever come out for 9 months or something, you know, for like a really long time. And then Zoo Entertainment here in BMG company here in LA wanted to sign it. And then one day the president decided, no, we're not signing it. So like I was all set up to sign with Zoo, and they said no. And then a few weeks later, I guess, Bud Scapa, who was originally a Rolling Stone writer and worked at lots of labels, but he still does a lot of writing. He went running or something with that Girlfriend album, and he decided he would go into work and make a memo saying, I think we should reconsider doing this thing. So he went into work and he cranked the album again, and then Lou Malia, the head, came by the door and said, what's that you're playing? And he's like, well, it's the Matthew Sweet record. And he says, yeah, what's our status on that? And he's like, well, you killed it like last week.
Because he has no memory of
he doesn't even remember.
He doesn't
know?
know. Yeah.
And then he's like, that's cool, let's sign it. You know, so that's how it almost didn't even get
that's how the record industry works.
Yeah, no, I know. And so...
and still does to this day.
So it was cool because it was like an indie label, and everybody was young and had just been hired there, and they had, you know, pretty good budgets for, you know, if you were indie now, it wouldn't be like that. It was almost like a big label would have, you know. So that was fun, and they started, you know, promoting the record. So it came out, I guess, a year after it was made, and you know, we did college radio stuff.
And then the whole Girlfriend took off. I mean, what was interesting also was even then, actually, it was the start to me, which, you know, there's always a line that goes on to something, which we'll get on to something else later. But your interest in anime at that point, which it was way before it was kind of mainstream.
Yes, it really was way before.
It was
Funny.
way before. I mean, because we're talking in the last maybe 8 to 10 years, it's become like pretty hip. I mean, this was like 1990.
Yeah.
That you were into it, and the video you did for that, which was.
Yeah,
pretty
I always
amazing.
had a lot of weird hobbies, and when I got interested in something, and still to this day, I'll like really learn all about it. You know,
Right.
I have to get inside of like the whole thing. And when I was living back east, before we came to LA, my wife Lisa and I, she's here in the audience, but we won't swing cameras at her, or she might turn beet red. But we would go to this comic store outside of Princeton where we lived. We rented this little house that was built in like 1780. It was really crazy and cool and sort of haunted. And we would go to this comic book store in like a strip mall and occasionally buy comics and stuff. I kind of never did that when I was a kid. For some reason, they were interesting to me. And the Japanese stuff was interesting because it just had so many different kinds of subject matter. Some of it was sort of adult, and some of it was like these kind of amazing sort of myth stories, like almost like sci-fi kind of thing. But what I love was just the look of the art. It was so kind of trippy and cool. It was like art from Mars to me or whatever. So we collected a lot of stuff, and we had sort of some posters in our house in Princeton. And then, you know, so once I had some success, I would try to get to my hobby thing. You know what I mean? Rather than figure out what would people like, it was what would I like.
Well,
You know, so there was always a little bit of friction about those things. You know?
But was there also something in there which, and maybe not, you know, this, I mean, this is just me looking at you personally, of if I can use that to be the image, then I get to step back a bit.
Yes, a little bit. It's there a little
Because,
bit.
I mean, it was, ridiculously cool imagery and ahead of its time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I still felt awkward about being a guy who's a singer-songwriter, you know, to
Right.
some degree. I was never, like, really a dancer. I mean, now I've played shows so many
Now,
times.
apparently you're good.
No. Now I've played shows so many times. You know what I mean? But at that time, it was kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
move around and perform or whatever. You know, they want you to kind of do something.
But you have this weird thing, and I'm sort of going off on a bit of a tangent, but because I know you've done, you know, you did work with Lloyd. You actually worked a bit with people in Athens, Georgia, when you first moved there. You had a band with Sean Mullins and Pete Droge, and yet those things didn't work as well. Although the Sean Mullins and Pete Droge, I think, did kind of work-ish, but
It's strange because we sold a lot of records and we had like a big video on
Yeah.
CMT.
yeah, but it's one of those things.
But it
which,
was like
which
at
are-
the
which-
end of the, if you didn't sell 1 million, it didn't
Yeah.
matter. You
But
know,
I-
like now it'd be #1 or something
Yeah.
if we sold that many records.
But I have read, I mean, it was one sort of obscure interview somewhere, whatever it was, but of you sort of trying to learn to not be in control of everything.
Yes.
So on the one hand, there's that weird side of you that doesn't want to be the front guy.
Right.
But the other side of you that's like,
I don't know how
want
to
I can't give
work
it to
with
someone
others.
else.
It's just like poor skills, like really, is how I think of it. And the thing about being just totally solo is like there's just nobody to really share it with, you know?
Right.
I mean, and that's a problem really
Yeah,
for
but
me
when
with
you-
success itself. It's just like there's nowhere to go.
But
You know what I
when you
mean?
get to the point where you can share it with someone, if they're creative people, you can't share it with them because
Yes.
you're not in
and
control
that's
of it.
cool, yeah, and you kind of have a little bit less pressure and
Right.
you can kind of do another thing. But, you know, I was always most comfortable with my own thing, but as the music business has changed, it's just whatever opportunities come along, I just try to stay busy and do things. I don't get offered a lot of terrible things that I don't want to do, really. You know what I mean? It's more just naturally kind of...
And to be honest, they're only as terrible as you make them.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I was really good. I think I was really good at doing my promo and all my stuff when Girlfriend took off. But to the point where I just was so drained, you know what I mean? Because I would just give and give and give, and when you're doing that like every day, it just
Right.
you just want to die, sort of.
So
you know?
that, I mean,
too
that,
much me.
and
you
that
know?
album led
Just
into
no
Altered
more.
Beast, which is, you know, a title in and
Yeah,
of itself.
that was all. I was kind of all messed up by the end of touring for Girlfriend. I was sort of drank a lot and whatever else, and I didn't even take a break, like, because all I ever cared about was the studio. They're like, oh, we need to get another record really soon. And I was like, great, I'll go in December when I get back in November and we'll do an album, you know, because I'd always sort of thought if I could just if I ever had one thing that was successful, then maybe I could have lots of things, because it just, I don't know why I thought that way, but I sort of did. So, however, then I went and made just a purely artistic record. There really wasn't anything that was very singly on it, but they made singles out of some of the songs, you know, but the reaction to it was sort of like weird and not as good as Girlfriend, you know. It was already kind of not as good.
I mean, all it wasn't the same. I mean, I
wasn't the same.
Find it interesting.
Well, my diehard fans really loved that record. Some of them, it's like the one for them, and it was really raw, and I didn't, you know, overthink it.
No, well, even down to the sort of how many different album colors were there.
Yeah, well, that was a thing that the label did, the multicolored thing. It's funny, for that record I wanted to use in Japan, I'm sure you've been over in Japan, there's a, kind of the UPS of Japan is it Yamato shipping, or I think it's Yamato it's called, and their logo is like a cat in an oval carrying like a little cat in its mouth, like the courier or whatever. And I really wanted to use that. I wanted their logo, and they tried to get it, you know, went to like the head of Yamato or whatever it's called, and they were just like, no, you cannot use it. And so the dinosaur was kind of this consolation prize I got given, you know. And I was like, oh, I like dinosaurs. I think they just showed me some different kind of mock-ups of things. I was like, dinosaurs are cool, okay.
And then we're going to go on to 100% Fun. We'll get back to talking more about that, onto what you're doing now, but we should get some more music in, and we'll do some more talking as well before, and then we'll go to some questions, but I have a bunch more questions for you as well, but we should get to some more music for a few songs.
Okay.
Because I'm finding it interesting myself.
I will try to answer all your questions.
Or even say, I have no answer for that.
I really don't know what to say. I've always got something to say. I'm a yapper, which is good if you're a solo artist, because like, it's so awkward if you don't want to say anything and the people are there, and it's just like, I get kind of angry sometimes, you know, touring way back when you're just overwhelmed. I'd just kind of be angry. I hated myself, you know, more than everyone else even, you know. I would really get into that in shows. Okay, what songs am I doing? I'm so sorry, I don't know what I'm up to.
Where are we?
Oh, right, I have a teleprompter. Okay. Speaking of Altered Beast, we're going to play 2 songs off of Altered Beast. This first one is called Someone to Pull the Trigger. Actually, I recorded the backing track for this in London for a BBC session. And Ivan Julian was in England doing some promo with me, guitar player, and he had toured in the Voidoids with Elvis Costello's band. So we got Pete Thomas to come play drums with us to do the thing. Yeah, and he lives here now, and I've seen him over the years, but at the time I'd never met him. It was really exciting, and he did this great track. And I remember, like, I wanted to use the track from the BBC, and it was like, why don't you just redo it? You know? but there was something about it that I liked, so I made them use the original, and it is what it is.
Well, I'm loaded and ready, calmly holding steady, looking for a sign to show me when. I'm waiting and willing, the clarity is chilling, and I'm not turning back, and neither can you. I need someone to pull the trigger. There's a hole in my heart getting bigger, and everything I'll ever be I've been. I need someone to pull the trigger. So if you're what I think you'll be, if you're who I think I see, tie me up and drug me. 'Cause I'm not gonna beg for my life. No, 'cause I need someone to pull the trigger. 'Cause there's a hole in my heart getting bigger than everything I'll ever be. I've been, and I need someone to pull the trigger. So if you're what I think you'll be, if you're who I think I see, shoot, 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 shoot. Shoot. Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of sad. I guess I'd sort of had enough then. Let's see. Speaking of the anger from Altered Beast. You don't want to die. The living gets you down. We want you to act like nothing's wrong, even though you heard a sound. And then you're ripped right out of the ground like a fucking root. Oh, you simply cannot hide from the ugly truth. You feel you must be wise, yeah, 'cause you could find yourself among a sea of smiling faces. It's a way I never felt. Oh yeah, kind of flies right into my face and out the other side. The ugly truth leaves nothing to decide. The ugly truth makes every one of us a liar. Ugly. If you can dig a big enough hole to bury all your loot, no, you still won't be prepared for the ugly truth. No, you'll never be prepared for the ugly truth. Oh, you simply cannot hide from the ugly truth.
I always got to be careful of not pulling my lead out and whacking my head on light bulbs.
The light bulbs are great. I like them.
I mean, if we went back to, before we get into the questions, back to that album and the one video, what was the song you did for the
Time
video?
Capsule. We did actually.
Time Capsule, yes.
Yeah, that
which
was
I
the
have,
one.
you know, it's a pronunciation thing because it's Time Capsule.
Capsule.
Capsule. Time Capsule.
Aluminium.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Well,
video
we actually,
cool
that
for
one I
that.
accept because we spell it differently.
Okay.
You actually
yeah,
leave the I
has
in.
the
It
I.
has the
Okay,
I in.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering actually.
Yeah, because you actually spell it without the I.
Yeah.
You don't just skip past
Probably
it.
incorrect. It probably was
Yeah,
the
it's-
I first.
It was
wasn't
the I first.
Yeah.
Well, of course, anything first was. It's the
Of course,
English.
'cause we were
English
nothing.
language.
I know.
The English
It
language.
is English. It's become something
Yeah.
else. These days, I mean.
No, the time capsule video.
English is like.
The time capture video, which was Douglas, who was the director who did that? I
know it.
Douglas Gay. He did a documentary called Tomorrow. Anyone? Douglas Gay. It's going to come back in a minute.
Gates?
No, it's Gaye. And anyway, the video Tomorrow. I mean, he did this documentary. I mean, the whole. I mean, it actually leads on to other things you've done. His video of you, which was all very close-up photography, all these bugs all over you.
Yeah, that was my idea.
Yeah, which was amazingly filmed and gorgeous.
Yeah, it was horrible to do, but
I can imagine, because you got these like scorpions.
And they were like wanted to eat my eyelids and stuff. They were.
I mean,
crazy.
were they actually on your face and all that?
Yeah,
they were.
Yeah,
that was actually
real. We got like all these exotic insects that were alive, like horned beetles and things. And the video is sort of like a Lilliputian type.
Yeah,
thing,
no, it is. It was Gulliver's Travels.
I was supposed to be getting kind of wrapped up. That part of it, I don't think was my idea. I was probably like, let's get weird insects, or I don't know. Maybe it was all Douglas's idea.
No, and the interesting thing about that, I mean,
there's two versions of it. Did you see them both?
I did not see the other one. No, I saw the one with all the bugs.
But was it in color?
No, it was in black and white.
Okay, well, there's a color version with no subtitles. Did it have subtitles on the one you saw?
No, I don't think so.
Because we had this version that was like supposed to look like an old Czechoslovakian film or something, and they messed it all up and had like
no, mine was very, very clear.
Subtitles of stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I think the color version's the one we put on MTV, but I don't.
Maybe it was color, but that close up, how much color can you really register? I'm guessing, because they.
You might be right, yeah.
Because I mean, I didn't register it as a bright video. It was all very close up of bugs.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about even you then discovering people or working with people, and have we found his name yet? It's Gayton. That was it. Gayton. Douglas Gayton.
He was great.
And he did this documentary called Tomorrow, and it was basically a documentary about how everyone eventually will have their own TV show, TV station. Okay. And here we are, and it's
sort of true.
Yeah, and it's like those forward-thinking people that even back then you were working with. But the interesting thing about the video to me was how it sort of links from there to what you're doing now, and your last album, the newest one, Sunshine Lies. Yeah. Sunshine Lies, and it has all this like micro photography.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
On it, and so it's kind of similar in that sense.
I can think of that connection.
Of that
that's
sort of connection.
Liking things. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have this thing about nature, obviously.
Yes, I'm psycho
that
on
you're
nature.
Trying to.
People don't really want pop music about nature, I don't think. But for me, as I've gotten older, it's just the only thing that means anything sort of to me. You know what I mean? In a way, it's what I feel part of, and so more and more I look at it, because human affairs are only so interesting after a while.
Well, the photography was Brian Valentine, I think, is the guy that did the photography on the album.
Yes, he calls himself
V something.
Yeah,
isn't
it's like a.
It's a weird thing. I can't remember that.
Lord
it's easy
V.
to remember the name.
Lord V. Is what he calls himself.
Lord V.
But
I am Lord V.
No,
that's a little too cool. Star Trek for me, Corey. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Did you look him up, because he's an interesting guy. He just does those in his back garden. Yeah. And he
I mean, what sort of
refracts stuff through dewdrops in the morning.
But what was interesting in that video, and the fact that you used that on this album, the photography, is that you seem to want to get really, really, really close to nature. I mean, is that the sort of fascination?
I think it is. I've always really loved animals, and was, when I was really little, I'd think, I'll be a biologist, or I'll be a zoologist, or I'll do, some sort of ocean-related thing. I loved, seahorses, and, you could order seahorses from Nebraska when I was a kid, you know what I mean? They'd come in like a bag, these little pygmy seahorses or whatever, and I'd try to keep them alive, as long as I could. And then eventually I learned, I don't want to, kill animals by loving them. So since then I've really only had cats, who I've tried to keep alive to the last minute.
And with the cats we could get on to...
Oh yeah, I'm a cat crazy person.
No, well, that I've discovered.
Cats are very close, so I guess that sort of makes sense.
And you're in good company here with Mike and Kat, who live, not only run the whole thing, live here as well, which the cat, who unfortunately likes makeup bags and stuff. So is a bane to everyone else in the studio, bar Mike and Kat. But and the whole nature thing, which was interesting to me, and that, you know, go ahead,
Is that me?
drink
Is
some
that
water.
you?
No, no, that's you. Mine's on
Okay,
the floor.
cheers.
And the fact that you're still kind of trying to find your way, and then I discover you got into pottery, and you're getting it's like literally working with your hands.
Yeah, it's like elements, you know. So I do like, you know, I like to feel the whole universe, you know what I mean? I love anything, you know, when Stephen Hawking comes out and says
Right.
stuff he says, because it's just kind of how I think of things in a weird way.
But with the nature thing, with the pottery thing, is it trying to get a balance between here and here?
Well,
kind of
I
thing?
think that with pottery, it was kind of strange how I got into it. My wife Lisa wanted to make hand-formed pottery like way back in the early 90s, and I got her a kiln. And then we kind of never hooked it up for a really long time because we had to put in a 240. I knew nothing about it. I just like ordered a kiln, you know, and we didn't have the 240 outlet or anything. So we finally got it hooked up. We got one in our house we have now.
So a kiln will only work on British power, is what you're saying?
Some of them are 110, but yes, they like that big power, as will electric cars.
Right.
But now I'm forgetting what I was even...
Back to the whole buying the kiln and...
Oh yeah, the kiln. Okay, so I'll try not to go I told you
I'm going to drag out a piece of pottery in a minute because I find it interesting.
Yeah.
Because
it's
it
hard
kind
though,
of...
because you could never represent all the very different kinds of stuff.
No, there's many different things you make, but what's interesting to me is how the kind of all of it sort of ties together from, you know, from your love of anime
Yes.
to your love of animals to it all makes
does.
sense when you look at it.
Yeah.
I want to drag a piece. Someone give me where was our piece? We
No,
have one
don't
down
get
here.
it out.
No,
okay,
go.
the thing with pottery
Grab
is...
it. Grab it.
Lisa had all these books from, like, mid-century pottery books from the 50s and 60s she had collected.
Right.
And I started reading the books. I said, you know, you should get a wheel. That looks pretty cool. Get a wheel. And Lisa had left a job she was on. So she got a wheel, and I just, like, hogged it and took it over and sort of went, I can do this. But I really taught myself, kind of like with
Right.
music, so I'm all backwards, you know.
But this is pretty intricate when it comes to someone who's taught himself. I mean, where have we got a close
I love
up?
cats, and
I mean, even if you look at the
it's
back
a small
of it,
porcelain cat here.
but
with a tail
with the,
modeled
I mean,
on
it's
him
like the
and
cat
eyes.
anime eyes, though. I mean, the whole shape.
Yeah, I love
goes
Alice
back
in
to that
Wonderland.
love.
I make a lot of cats with very
Right.
long necks, you know, and stuff.
I mean, that is, and you actually sell these pieces as well, which is.
I sell them on an Etsy store, yes.
Yep.
It's called
And what-
Lolina Art Pottery. That's my
Yeah.
street, Lolina, and it's
Yes.
actually
And your studio is Lolina Green.
Lolina Green, we call it,
Yes.
yeah. And
Yeah,
Lolina
everything
was
is
like a
named after a
Polynesian goddess, apparently.
Right.
Like, we thought it was a Spanish word, and we would ask everybody all the time, like the gardeners, like, Lolina, what does it mean? You know, and they just kind of like, don't know Lolina. And finally we figured it out, Polynesian, which is cool, because,
Right.
you know, we like tiki stuff and all that. Goes along with the anime. Big-eyed art.
Yeah. No,
We
I mean,
collected like all this, a whole era of early 60s art of these crazy
well, I mean, I've
paintings.
seen pictures of you in, I'm presuming it's your workroom studio at home.
In
where
some of
it's
that
just
stuff with
full
some
of
things,
art.
yeah. But the pottery was really cool because it was like doing music for me.
And Papa, you said it taught you something about making.
I think it did because it made me think of it a little differently. In leaving the era of big record companies, or at least the era for me of having to sort of be pressured to chase something or whatever, I wanted to just get all that out of my head. And I think when I learned to do pottery, it was different because like, there's an object when you're done.
Yeah.
And I would look at this thing and kind of, wow, there's a thing, you know. And that's the problem with pottery, why you have to sell it, because it just builds up and there's tons everywhere. I mean, really, because I'm like prolific about it. But what it made me think about music was that I could just be like, I'm a little potter guy. I just do my thing. I'm small. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm just this guy. If somebody likes my piece of pottery, it's a very pure, just being an artist, sort of. And so I started thinking music and the pottery, they're very similar how they come about for me. I have to be kind of spaced out and not exactly knowing what's happening. And I found that like if I go 2 or 3 weeks and I would look at the pottery, I'd go, I can't even remember doing it. It just, did I do that kind of? And it's the same way with music. I always think like I would go, I don't remember doing it, sort of. I always felt like I did nothing because like music was just air or whatever. So it felt really insubstantial. So to think of it as an object that was simple and small, like my song is just my object that I made, gave me this great feeling of just being really free, you know.
Well, it allowed you to let it go, probably, as well.
And now I really can let go in making records, which is fun for me. It's harder to get them to people, but it's a lot more fun than...
You
it
find
got
ways.
especially bad at the end of the 90s where they just really wanted you to just, you know, more and more fringe music got shut out, and they're looking for a certain kind of thing. I mean, they would be like, you know, put loops in your records. You got to put loops. Beck's got loops or whatever, you know. And I just would be like, no.
Yeah, because they're all.
I don't think it would have helped.
Well, no, it wouldn't have helped one, and they're all the wrong people to listen to because it's not for you. I mean,
Yeah.
and the thing is, you find other avenues to do it, or you find other artistic avenues, which you did in pottery, but you've continued to make records. I mean, you're up to. I mean, we've done 10 solo albums. You've done the Thorns record. You've done 2 with Susanna Hoffs.
That's right. We're going to do a third one. We're going to do an 80s one. Yeah.
So, I mean, to have that many albums, I've been doing it for longer than you, and I have a quarter of the albums.
Yeah, but they were massive.
No, they weren't all, but it was just, you know, it's I mean, you're a prolific songwriter and artist, which, you know, and one hopes that you'll continue to do it because people do appreciate it. It's not the amount you sell, it's the quality
Yeah,
of
and
what you do.
that doesn't bother me, really.
No,
it only
'cause
bothers me
all
from the
that's fickle
standpoint
anyway.
of how do we make money, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I always wanted it. It's so funny because music essentially is free now in a weird way. And I used to say, I said back in probably when I did Altered Beast, I talked to my manager, why can't we just give music away for free and make money some other way? Because I just wanted that pressure off it, kind of, you know. And he'd be like, well, you'd have to make money somehow. How would you do that?
Now
Nobody
it's
knew,
like
you know?
soundtrack TV and
Yeah,
all
you just
other
try and do
things.
lots of things. I did
Yeah.
a new Scooby-Doo theme song.
I know,
you know,
I
for
saw
this
it,
year,
yeah.
so.
I saw that Scooby-Doo
really
mystery
did
you
find
did, yes,
everything.
yeah, which was this year. It was the
Yeah.
intro and outro song.
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But then even that
It
is
was
kind of
hard.
cool. Even
That work
that's
is
cool,
hard
though.
because it's like everything's 30 seconds long, but it's just like a lot of people have their finger in it, you know, on those
Yeah,
sorts
but
of things.
you
So
know,
it's hard.
you can do what you can do. I mean, the thing is, in the end, it's like you either let the pressure get you or you don't.
Yeah, you're right.
And you continue to do what you do. I mean, that's why they're hiring you. We have some questions from the chat room.
Okay.
Bruno, of course, what specific genres of 80s music would you like to cover with Susanna Hoff? So he's presuming you're doing Under the Covers Volume 3 in the 80s because you did the 60s, you did the
80s.
70s.
Yeah, well,
and,
we are going to do an 80s record.
Please don't say.
One of our problems with Tears for Fears will be on it. No, seriously, and I mean, Sue, the Bangles are then. I haven't even brought that up.
She's going to do a cover of her own song.
I get to sing that one, obviously. She'll sing the Tears for Fears song. But we don't have rules really for the covers things. If it's obscure things we want to do, we do them. If it's some big hit that no one would want to hear us do, but we want to do it, we'll do it. So it's kind of a mixture of stuff. But again, as the record industry goes on, it's like we tend to really way over-record and do like way too much for these records. For the 70s one, we had like 40 songs or something. And at first, it's going to be like a double gatefold vinyl version and a double album, all this stuff. And then it's like you have to get it down to 16 songs. It's
And
like it
it's just a
changes
download.
over time. It's like, you know, we had beautiful vinyl for Sunshine Lies, but couldn't have it for the 70s Sid and Susie where it would have been so cool, you know.
Yeah.
And when you have the double, you can roll in it.
Yeah.
But that's a joke that goes out. Does no one even know what I'm talking about? Some of these guys
When it's a
do.
double, it's a
Well,
double.
you use a Frisbee, or you could use the double. People use their double gatefolds to clean their weed and get the seeds out.
Oh,
of
drugs.
It.
I know. See, I know nothing about
It's light
that.
light drugs.
No.
It's just like teenage 70s, you know, kind of thing.
Okay, M. Hannon 24 in the chat room asks, when working on a new project, do you visit old demos? You don't strike me as someone that does that much.
I
No.
don't. Everything I did before today just gets disposed of in my mind or something.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this today because I knew I would be interviewed. I can't remember Sunshine Lies. Like I really, like when I play it, I'll remember it, you know what I mean? But I don't have a feeling for how I felt when I made it or when it was over.
'cause you move on to
I
the
always
next thing.
felt like nothing I did mattered at all. You know what I mean? But that wasn't the point for me. The point's going forward, like you're saying, like the process, you know?
Yeah, but I think, one, going forward, but also I think it matters at the time. in retrospect, that's a different thing, because at the time it was an emotion that you had to get out, and you're done.
Yes, that's
and
right.
So next,
The
you
future
move
comes
on.
next. Yeah,
and,
I always wanted just the future. In music, I thought, music will be one note with like this one word, someone singing the whole time. Like I really
or like that what's the symphony that's going on for 600 years in Germany or whatever it is, isn't there? Some avant-garde.
That's great.
That's being played in the church one note a year.
Yeah, well, because I couldn't think in my mind, like, where does it go to? And the more I tried to find what was forward, the more I discovered older stuff, because that's what's there already,
Yeah.
And the more I cared about that. Like I originally I programmed drums. When I learned to write songs, I would use various, initially some tiny Boss drum machine, and then as they got more developed, I used drum machines. And one day, before I made Girlfriend, I set up a drum kit that I had from a tour we did for Earth, and I just played crappy drums along with my demo. And that was a big difference for me. Like, doing it totally organically really made me feel it
Crappy
differently.
drums are great.
Yeah, it was really great.
Well, having a human feel is
and that's how I learned about Neil Young, because my manager then wrote to me and said, "These demos are great, it's like Neil Young." And I was like,
No, I used to...
Really? Because I know my voice is tiny and weird or whatever, because I didn't know yet how great Neil Young was, Then I found out,
No, but don't
quickly.
you meet these guys? I'll take another question. But don't you, we had producers and different people we've worked through the years who were all really perfectionists in what they did and needed things a certain way and all very tidy and exact.
Yeah.
And then you say, play me your favorite track. And they'd undoubtedly, come out with Family Affair by Sly
Something
and the Family
crazy that's
Stone,
awesome,
or
yeah.
that's amazing and sounds like shit.
It's one of the great things.
But if you look at it technically, it's just on a technical viewpoint,
Yeah.
but it has the feel.
It doesn't
has
matter.
the emotion.
None of that stuff
Technically,
matters, yeah.
these people were incapable of making that because they go, oh my God, there's too much hiss, or
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
too much this or too much that, because they didn't have the feel
You
for
thought
it.
more about the music, I think, getting in there and getting out, in the
Yeah.
past. And that's one of the things that's great about learning things for the covers records. And I never did covers. I never wanted to do covers. I was like, why do I have to do covers? They'd say, like, do a cover at the end of your show or whatever. And I just was like, shouldn't I do everything new? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But over time, I've learned the difference, and Shout Factory actually asked Sue and I to do a covers record. And I love her voice, and we've been friends a really long time. So it was kind of like begrudgingly that I did it. But the experience is great because you hear all those old records, and they're so charming and imperfect and
Well, you
just
get to
more human kind of than they are now. It's just not such a rigid kind of thing,
Well, if I knew how to pronounce that, Dabbercore in the chat room asks, who played the lead guitar on the Sid and Susie version of Marquee Moon and Killer Queen?
I think I played both of those.
Lead guitar?
Yeah. Well, Marquee Moon's kind
Who
of
played-
a little
who
bit
played- who
like a
played on-
classical piece or something, so I really tried to get at least some of it right, but it has just this endless solo.
But who played, which was interesting, because that seems to be a theme now and again, going back again, who played the guitar on Girlfriend?
On Girlfriend, well, Richard Lloyd from television
Right.
plays on half
Because
of
that's
it, and
one,
Robert Quine from...
that's one long guitar solo from start to, underneath the
Yes.
song, there is so much guitar solo, it's ridiculous, which I don't think anyone at the time realized as much.
Uh-huh.
I was only listening back today because I remember the song coming out and I remember hearing it. I was living in New York. I don't remember the amount of guitar solo that's in that song.
Yeah,
But
right.
there's an inordinate amount.
Yeah, it's really long. It was supposedly they weren't even recording. The take they used was someone ran the tape on a rehearsal. So I think the drums also do a lot of crazy stuff on it.
I'm guessing Tejas, you would pronounce it, 74
That's
in the
right.
chat room asks, who were your musical influences when you were growing up? The 3 Bs, I heard.
Well, I love all that stuff, but I really solidified my my influence from it later. When I was a teenager, I guess when I got out of sort of 6th grade or whatever, my sister was 2 years older, and her friends were sort of people I looked up to for music. And at that time, it was like a full-on kind of prog rock thing happening. I guess it was a little before sort of the REO Speedwagons and Journeys and all those groups, and I really liked Yes. Yes was the group I
Really?
liked first. The first thing I learned a lot from was Yes, because I learned to play bass picking it off those records, and it was really difficult and weird, And so it really helped me, I think, develop hearing what notes are. I mean, easier on those records because it's a loud and twangy bass. You know what I mean? It's got a real edgy hit on it. But even now, I really kind of appreciate them, and it was such sort of gently psychedelic, sort of trippy stuff. You know, I can see now really why I liked it, because it had a lot of melody, and I always liked melodies a lot. I always wanted music that had melodies to me, you know, that I heard and went, that's a cool...
No, I mean, there's nothing,
ear,
there's nothing in every album I know of yours. There's nothing that is, like, this is my album where I'm just going to screw melody and I'm going to go for something dark.
I screw it sometimes, but...
Not really.
But
there's always
not all the
there's
time.
always harmonies, there's always melody in there somewhere. Though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I like pop music in the sense of, like you say, the Beatles or the Byrds and all that, but I really learned the most about them once I had moved to New York and kind of was friends with people like Lloyd and Fred, because we all kind of went back and got into those records and did some covers. And
the
you know, Lloyd turned me on to like the Rolling Stones, who I didn't know that much about because I was more of a Beatles
you either were the
person,
Rolling Stones or Beatles.
Yeah, and there was also, I was a huge fan of The Who. Like The Who, in my growing up in sort of junior high, you were kind of either into The Who or Led Zeppelin. And The Who were much more melodic, so they were kind of the group.
Yeah, I was
liked,
actually
you know?
into Zeppelin. But
Zeppelin's great.
Until I got to a certain age
I can appreciate them
when I became a
much more
mod when I was 18.
Mods are
Then, of course,
That sounds
it
great.
had to be The Who. You know,
The Who.
Anyone know what a mod is? Do you
I do. Did you
know,
have the scooter?
I had the
and
parka.
everything?
You know, I didn't have a
That's totally-
license to have a scooter. But
Oh,
I had the
that's cool.
parka and the suit and the eyeliner.
Loved it. I bought
It was
lots of mod
there's the
music
era
and
of
the revival
quadrophenia.
of it.
I love the fact that someone online is called Cop in a Feel. Okay.
Cop in a Field.
Can you break down the chord shapes in We're the Same?
Sure, anyone can break them down. Well, it's pretty, I mean, I don't know. Really? Do I
What
do
is it?
this?
You can.
There's
absolutely.
probably like a tab for it online that's
Yeah.
as good as I will know to tell you. It's really just like G, C, D, E minor a lot. That's like kind of all the chords in it, I think.
G, C, D, E minor.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I
You
think it
just
should
have
have
to
been
put
able
them
to work
together
it out.
in some
some
order. I
sensible
can't
order.
remember because I
Yeah.
did it once tonight.
How
So
long?
I've emptied the bank.
TFF fan 28. I'm guessing that's one of us. How long does it generally take you to write a song?
Not long. Fast.
You're like a kind
Like really fast.
of right.
You know, it's funny. I made a new album I have done right now.
Right.
It's called Modern Art, and it has. I wanted to try to do weird things, but I didn't want it to not be like personal or not have good melodic stuff. I wanted to try and do something differently, and at first I put down kind of just noise stuff on tracks, and then started building things through it or whatever with some ideas I had. But then I discovered something, which was that I could take my original tapes of making something up, and they would usually have some really weird structure with some other parts and things that I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but I found like if I followed those things, they were kind of strange and organically together, you know? So that's what I ended up doing on this, and so they were just, the first time I had the idea for the melody is the basis for most of the stuff on the new record, but I just don't have patience for working on songs.
Right.
Like, I would never take a song and like, this song is terrible, I'm going to work on it till it's good. I would just write more songs.
Yeah.
Because
No,
if a
I
song
mean,
is
it's-
terrible, like I wouldn't want to work on it.
But you have the
know what I
same.
mean?
I mean, I have my method is you play it, and you know, people I work with in the studio they'd be taping it, you know, and they're like, you don't want to take this home and try and remember it. I'm like, if I don't remember it tomorrow, it was crap.
That's good. That's good.
That's basically my
I used
bottom
to
line.
feel that way,
you
and
know.
I would remember everything in my head, and now I'm always recording when I'm in a real stream of consciousness mode, because I go back and I just don't even remember doing it, and I might
Right.
hear it. I can really hear when something catches my ear that I'd like to work
So you're
on.
suggesting I might be missing a few things.
No, not really.
Okay.
We're all great here. All of us are great here in this room.
Kelly G22 in the chat room asked, do you prefer performing live, or do you consider it more of an obligation?
It's not an obligation because, like, you know, no one's making me play live. You know what? I really like playing live.
It was
And
that bet you lost.
It was the scariest thing for me when I had success with Girlfriend, was playing live, and now it's real natural for me. I just don't fear it. I feared so much back then,
Yeah.
and I would really get anxiety, you know, having to play.
I mean, you seem to get nervous, and it's interesting to watch. You seem to get nervous, but that's between the songs. Like once you're singing and playing,
Well,
you're fine.
I was still nervous. The other thing is I never play alone. Like this
Right.
is probably I would almost say it's the second time I've ever played a show alone, but I think it might be more like 3, 4, 5, something like that. But the first time I ever played alone, like I just mean with not my friend playing some
Right.
lead or whatever,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or also strumming a guitar and doing some harmonies, my friend Paul, or whatever. But we went to Japan and played some shows in 2004, I believe, in the summer, and I had to do a show in a record shop after our main show. It was just murderous, you know, and we went through all these streets into this little place. It was the sweetest thing. It was like people on the floor about the size of this room, and they're all waiting there. And like I came in and I played alone, and they had like their kids sitting there, and it was really kind of wonderful. But when I started out, that was like the idea that I'd sit alone and play an acoustic guitar, just not for me. You know, they made me go. Like on Columbia, I remember, you know,
It was an obligation.
do you know who Matt? It was then, yeah. Do you know who Matt Pinfield is?
Yeah,
the guy
of
who
course.
was
I was
with
actually
MTV for a long time.
interviewed him. He interviewed me recently when I was in New York.
Oh, yeah, on that
and I know
station
him
there, yeah.
back. Yeah, and I know
Yeah.
him back from way back when, from like 1982, 3, when he was
Right.
at a college station in
Yeah,
New Jersey.
exactly, and that's where I first met him. He was in some house where they
Yeah.
broadcast out of down in New Jersey, and they sent me there with an acoustic guitar, and I had to play my song, like off my first record. I'd never done it.
Right.
I mean, it was just, I was just horrified. I can't imagine what it was like, you know. But Matt was really nice.
No, he's a nice guy as well.
But, you know, it also that became that thing in the 90s where everyone has to play acoustic guitar and do everything unplugged all the time. And I like acoustic guitars enough that I guess in the end I've enjoyed playing some acoustic.
I mean, I kind of like. I mean, I got to say the first time I ever played acoustic with it, because I'm not a guitar player particularly,
Yeah.
was
We're both bass players.
actually quite recently. You know, and that's the first time in my entire career I played on my own with an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, it's just kind of freaky.
It's a
I
little
don't know.
weird, yeah.
I'm used to making the noise with electric and
Well, it's just having some. I don't know.
Some
It's like a
power,
little. It's
you
like a
know?
little comfort blanket. You're used
Yeah.
to people. It just makes you feel a little better when someone's around you, because you know if you screw up, they might cover it a
that's
bit.
right. There was no one to cover it tonight.
Herring 405. I don't even want to start to ask where that name comes from. It's like a
Red
fish
herring?
driving down the subway. I don't know. I mean, down the freeway and to Orange County. In the chat room asked, I wonder if you could talk about the structure of the 4-song suite Thunderstorm, which closes the album in reverse. With what inspired that and how was it put together? etc.
Well, I remember pretty well this one. On that record, we had multiple producers. It was my friend Fred Marr from Girlfriend, and then it was Jim Scott, who was also the engineer, and Greg Leese, who'd played with me for a long time. And Greg was supposed to be kind of the musical director. We wanted to do some stuff with a lot of people playing at once, and so we thought he'll help deal with that. And I guess he came over one day, and we were just going through the songs and arrangements, and I had some songs that weren't quite making the cut, but that we sort of liked. And Greg kind of said, well, what if you sort of put them together into something? And so I went and kind of took parts of these different things I was working on and made them into this little thing. And it was really fun for everybody in the studio, because we made the different sections and put it together. And you know, it was kind of like this crazy thing, you know. We were sort of into Phil Spector at the time, like what with, you know, 3 pianos and 3 guitars and a couple drummers. And it makes just kind of this insane sound.
That's
you know?
cool. But okay, well, apparently we're going to head out now because we have one more song to do, though.
Oh my.
So I'm going to put you through it for one more. But thank you so much for being here. I have to
It's
say,
my pleasure. Thank you.
it's been wonderful.
Thank you. Kind.
Sunshine Lies was the last album,
Yes.
which is, and to be honest, I mean, I could go through everything, and we could have talked for a lot longer if I would have gone through all of Matthew's catalogue. But you can find out everything. You have MatthewSweet.com, which is
That's right,
all the
it's
info on.
terrible.
Even links to the pottery, should you want that.
You
so
can
don't-
get to the Etsy, I think, from there.
You
I
can.
hope so.
Oh, you can.
Oh, that's
I
good.
looked today.
That's
You
good.
can. You can get there. You can get to the pottery. You can get to everything. And you finished a new album, which I'm excited about. So what the new album you say
It's
the
called
name was
Modern Art,
Modern Art, do
and
you know when that's
it's
gonna be?
totally done. We did a couple other cool things. When it was mastered, the mastering lab had an old Neumann lathe for making vinyl, and so we cut all of our masters onto a vinyl master and then recaptured them in. So the whole album's like it's on vinyl, only it's
So it's
digital.
got the hiss.
It's got some hiss,
Right.
and it sounds, the bass and drums just do
No, a
this
bass has on vinyl
crazy
just has a
thing.
much better low.
It's
I think.
insane how punchy it makes them.
Yeah.
Like, I never realized really what vinyl did as much as what
tightened
what
all the
magnetic
low end
tape
up
did,
and
you
added
know?
hiss.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
that's
hiss is
pretty
nice.
nice. But it's
Because I have so
love
many
the sound of it.
buzzes and things anyway, it covers them up a bit.
So what song are you playing us out with?
I think I'm going to play...
I'm just moving
it's
this out of the
apropos
way.
because we're talking about horrible fear.
Yes, fear.
Feel Fear, it's called.
Okay,
It's
so
another
let me just
Sunshine Live song.
thank the crew, New Tech, everyone, of course, and thank Matthew
Thanks,
specifically
everybody.
for being
Thank
here.
you,
Shall I lean down a bit?
Thanks, Corner people.
Next week, October 27th, we have The Fallen Stars on the show. November 3rd, we have Nightmare and the Cat. November 10th, we have The Whiskey Saints. You can watch any episodes, you know where. Strip Down Live, you can go to iTunes, you can go to Blip TV. You know where to find it. Thank you very much, Matthew. And again, if you want to find out anything about Matthew's work, MatthewSweet.com. And I'll let you play
Thank you
us out.
so much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Going down and fading me out with it. Chances are we'll both come around again. So I let it be. See, no one else but you is in front of me. There is no one special you need to be. It's only me. Do you believe, deceive yourself? Don't you realize you can't be saved? Do you believe, deceive yourself? If you can't feel fear, you've gone insane. And away from everything that you know, doesn't seem like so very far to go. It's a million miles. War. Just because you can't see another way, 'cause you're not sure what I was going to say before you cut me off. Do you believe, deceive yourself? Don't you realize you can't be saved? Do you believe, deceive yourself? If you can't feel fear, you've gone insane. I'm still listening to the wind. It's all I hear. I am still turning inside out to love you, dear. Sun going down and fading me out with it. Chances are we'll both come around again. So I let it be. Do you believe, deceive yourself? Don't you realize you can't be saved? Do you believe, deceive yourself? If you can't feel fear, you've gone insane. Do you believe, deceive yourself? If you can't feel fear, you've gone insane. Do you believe, deceive yourself? I'm lost, but that's the end of the show. I'm not used to ending this one acoustic. La 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 la. Thank you. Thank you.